The phone screen lit up Ethan Carter's dark kitchen like a small lighthouse, cutting through the exhaustion that had been weighing on him for weeks. He glanced down at the numbers on the cracked glass and froze. 2:33 a.m. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold the device. In the next room, his 9-month-old daughter, Mia, had finally fallen asleep, but the silence felt heavy, almost mocking. The formula can on the counter was almost empty. Maybe enough for one feeding if he stretched it just a little, but not for 2 days. Rent was due in 3, and his bank account showed just $217. Ethan's job at the construction site had ended suddenly, leaving him scrambling for work and struggling to keep the small apartment above the grocery store from slipping out from under them. He scrolled through his contacts, ignoring the knot of pride in his stomach. His thumb hovered over his cousin's name before he typed a short message. "Hey, sorry to bother you this late. Mia's almost out of formula and I don't get paid until Tuesday. Can you spot me 45? I'll pay you back as soon as I can." He hit send, then immediately realized his mistake. The number at the top wasn't his cousin's. It was a stranger, someone named Emma Lawson, from an application he'd submitted weeks ago and forgotten about. Panic twisted in his chest. His fingers hovered over the phone, hoping somehow he could unsend it. But it was too late. The message sat there, delivered. He sank onto a kitchen stool and pressed his face into his hands. This was it, he thought, the moment that proved he couldn't even manage the small responsibilities of life, let alone the big ones. He had reached the bottom. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. He picked it up cautiously, almost afraid to see the response. It read, "Wrong number, but I can help." "What's your payment app?" Ethan stared at the message, numb. "This isn't real," he whispered to himself. Strangers didn't do this, especially not at 2:33 a.m. But Mia needed to eat and pride wouldn't fill her bottle. He typed back his payment app information. 5 minutes later, a notification popped up. $250. He couldn't breathe. $250. Not $45. Not some small gesture, $250. He dropped onto the kitchen floor, the bottle of formula in one hand, phone in the other, and let himself cry quietly, letting the relief, fear, and exhaustion spill out. By morning, after a fitful sleep, Ethan had pulled himself together enough to send a short message back. "I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. You saved my daughter." The reply came quickly. "You're welcome. Take care of Mia." Days passed. Ethan still couldn't believe what had happened. Then one afternoon, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "How's Mia?" Ethan typed, "She's doing better. Thank you again. I start a warehouse job Monday so I can begin paying you back in 2 weeks." The response surprised him. "I noticed your application to my company a few weeks ago. I'm Emma Lawson, CEO. We missed your interview, but there's an opening now. Can you come in tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Ethan read the message over and over. He should have been skeptical. This didn't happen in real life. And yet there it was, a real opportunity. He explained he didn't have childcare, and Emma replied, "Bring her. We have a nursery for employees. She'll be fine." The next morning, Ethan arrived at the glass-fronted offices of Lawson Industries holding Mia's hand. He couldn't stop thinking about how different this world was from his small apartment and the construction sites he'd known. The nursery on the second floor was full of light, painted soft yellows and blues filled with toys and books. Mia stared around with wide eyes. "Hi, Mia. I'm Ms. Foster," said the nursery director, kneeling down to the baby's level. "We'll take care of her. You focus on your interview." The interview itself was nerve-wracking. Ethan answered every question honestly, explaining his gaps in work, the construction job closure, and the reality of being a single father. But something felt different. They listened. They understood. 45 minutes later, it was over. Ethan left feeling anxious, unsure if he had done enough. 3 days later, HR called. "We'd like to offer you the position of junior project manager. $55,000 a year. Full benefits, including use of the on-site nursery. Can you start Monday? Ethan sank into his chair in disbelief. He had a job. A real job. Stability. For Mia, the following weeks were overwhelming. He learned the office routines, the project schedules, and the software systems. Mia thrived in the nursery, waving goodbye happily each morning. Emma visited occasionally during lunch, checking in quietly, leaving little notes for Ethan or Mia. Small acts that reminded him she was more than just a CEO. She was human, compassionate, and present. Their interactions grew natural, warm. Emma laughed at Mia's babbling, teased Ethan gently about his chaotic apartment mornings, and shared in his small victories. Ethan noticed little things about her too, the way she paused to listen, how she remembered Mia's favorite toy, how her presence felt reassuring without being intrusive. Then one afternoon, Ethan discovered a detail that made his chest tighten. Emma was legally engaged due to a family arrangement. She had never mentioned it, but the ring on her finger was real. For a moment he pulled back, unsure what to say, unsure how to feel. Emma sensed the tension. "I know what you're thinking," she said softly. "I'm engaged on paper. I'm not going through with it. I want this to be real if you'll let me." It wasn't simple, but they talked honestly. They talked about Mia, about fears, about hope, about loneliness and longing. They decided together to take the chance, to be open about their feelings and to prioritize what truly mattered. Love, family, trust, and Mia. Emma became a steady part of their lives. She attended first steps, celebrated birthdays, and shared small routines that had once been Ethan's alone. She learned to make bottles, soothe tantrums, and read bedtime stories. Ethan watched, often in awe, as she navigated her corporate world with confidence and their home with care and humility. By the time Mia turned 2, the bond between the three of them was undeniable. One quiet evening after a long day of work and play, Ethan turned to Emma while they both watched Mia asleep. Without thinking, he said, "Marry me." Emma blinked. "Now?" Ethan laughed softly. "I don't have a ring. I don't have a plan. But I know the best things in my life didn't come from planning. They came from moments I didn't expect." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You really mean that?" "I do. And Mia already thinks of you as part of our family. I want that to be official, with us together." 6 months later, on a crisp autumn day, Ethan and Emma were married on a small rooftop garden overlooking the city. Mia, now 3, clutched Emma's hand instead of dropping petals, insisting she stay close. Friends, family, and colleagues watched as the small but warm gathering celebrated more than a wedding. It celebrated survival, kindness, and love that had grown unexpectedly from a single, desperate text. During the reception, Ethan caught Emma's eye across the garden. She smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from Mia's face. They had come through chaos, doubt, and fear to reach this quiet certainty. Emma had responded at 2:33 a.m. when she didn't have to. She had given them more than money. She had given them stability, presence, and love. Ethan never paid her back the $250. Not because he couldn't, but because she refused. "You've already given me more than money could ever buy," she had said. "You gave me a family, a reason to come home, and a daughter who calls me mama. Keep the $250. You've already paid me back 1,000,000 times over," they had. Every meal shared, every bedtime story, every laugh at the dinner table was repayment, far beyond any money. Every step Mia took, every milestone reached, every giggle and hug, was a reminder of the wrong number that changed everything. From that night onward, Ethan, Emma, and Mia built a life together that was simple in its essence but profound in its impact. They learned that kindness, courage, and open hearts, even in a small, unexpected moment, can transform despair into hope. Love didn't always arrive in the way they imagined, but it arrived when it was needed most. And sometimes, just sometimes, it arrived at 2:33 a.m. from a stranger who chose to care.